This is a transmission from the archives.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Archives. My name is Tima, also known as the Master Archivist, and this is going to be my discussion and review of Skeleton Crew, episodes 6, 7, and 8. This is kind of a mix because I see episode 6 as, it's that connector point to get into the finale. But really, episode 7, 8, it really is it's a two-parter. All these other, obviously, there are the overarching parts to it. The overarching story, but definitely there is this perfect connecting piece, episode 7, 8. So we're going to be doing this one giant review. This is a three-parter here. So I'm gonna talk very loosely about episode 6 here. And it's bad because the one thing I mentioned I was waiting on is every character gets an episode, is what I've been looking at. The kids get their own episodes. Fern, she blamed herself in episode 4, leading, the skeleton crew into a war zone. None of this would happen if it wasn't for her. And you kind of get that expansion on Fern's character. For Wim, he gets, he really, to me, gets like the last episode was one of them, at least, where everyone gets their respective moments too in the finale I'll be talking about in this episode. But for episode 5, Wim gets his moment, you get to see he's overwhelmed with this, does blame himself, him being enamored with the Jedi, going into the Onyx Cinder, bringing them then to, you know what I mean? Like, it's this, he feels it's his fault that his obsession with this mysticism led everyone into this situation. Near-death experiences, and this episode will be no different. Spoilers. So let's get into it. So we do see Jod off of his default victory over Fern in the last episode to now be the captain of the Onyx Cinder. We see him actually get captured by the pirates. He's leaving. Man is happy. Him and SM-33 covered in all these gems, golds, necklaces, like beautiful, beautiful stuff. The look on his face, only then to be captured by Brutus and the crew. We do keep up with KB and the skeleton crew. This is the KB episode here. We see the group split. Wim and KB went off on their own to follow what are called trash crabs, which I love these things. And then Neil and Fern are deciding to scale the entire side of the mountain to get up to the Onyx Cinder to escape. So they're both going their own way because these trash crabs are collecting technological garbage. So their belief is that they should bring them probably to someone who can help, or they might be able to perhaps use it. Cause a divide. And one of the things they brought up, I think one of the earlier episodes and the episode before, which this would be the big catalyst for this episode, Fern brings up in the last episode about KB's cybernetics, because KB didn't want to go down into the spas. Fern brought up her concern about could it be because it could rust her gear, and KB said wouldn't be a problem at all, barely an inconvenience. Then we do see that actually did play a pretty big factor. But KB will actually need some of the piece of her cybernetics switched out. Otherwise, it would mean the end of her life. And that scene, like I said, I'm talking very fast through this episode because that was a big majority of it. A lot of character building stuff. Because we have the skeleton crew going through that, but then we have Jod on trial for escaping captivity, the many murder of the pirates, which we'll just talk about that now. He goes on trial and convinces the rest of the pirates to join him, saying that he can bring them to the treasure of Ad-Atten. He just needs the ship. He already has the coordinates. Crew, stand behind him yet again. Pirates love money. And Brutus is like, you know what? All right, we'll let it happen. We'll test it. We'll see how it goes. To be determined. So, that's mainly Jod's entire arc through this, is basically having them let him off the hook one more time. So going back to KB, they end up following the trash crabs to their home, only to find out they're being served to basically the mother trash crab, this giant creature. Looks phenomenal. I need to check how they did this. Neil and Fern were able to get to the ship. They're able to escape from the trash crab. We also learned the Onyx Cinder actually has a removable hull, which is cool. They're going to end up being compacted into trash themselves, and they're able to separate the hull, which I assume makes the ship faster because it has less to carry, but a cool design nonetheless. So I know I kind of talked about KB's arc so far. Wim was able to save her. It was it was a very tense scene, and I know I'm not doing it justice right now talking about it because I am breezing through this episode. I mean, regardless, I implore everyone who's listening to this to go watch it. Chances are pretty good if you're listening to this, you've seen the episode. That is the point. Spoilers, you know. But that's kind of I hate to say that's really as much as I'm going to talk about this episode. I really did like it, but to me, it's like the calm before the storm. To me, it was kind of overshadowed by everything before and the stuff that is coming after it. Nonetheless, I enjoyed it. So let's go on to episode 7. This is called "We're Gonna Be in So Much Trouble." We do catch up the parents on Ad-Atten, continuing that arc of them going to rescue the kids back. They're trying to send signals out through the barrier, trying to get some way to reach out to them to guide them back home, leading them to be caught by security droids and captured. Yeah, it's one of those things that's insane just because why I can't understand why no one else is really trying to help. I know their whole thing is that, they're going to reach connections, and I get it because Ad-Atten, now knowing it's this old Republic mint, there's a reason it's hidden and no one can get in, but also in the same way, no one can get out. I have so many more questions about it. A very self-sufficient community, apparently, and with, the only decent-looking place in the galaxy because war can't even reach it. But because of that, you got to think of all these sacrifices. I mean, no one can ever travel. No one's ever coming in or out, so there's no real, there would probably be none of the import and export. So, I mean, it's a very self-sufficient planet, it seems. But we end up here, the parents are trying to reach out. They end up getting detained and captured, essentially. And it brings us from there on to then Jod. The kids were able to get the message sent by the parents before their capture, which works out because Jod now convincing Brutus and the crew to now capture the children in the Onyx Cinder, which I give them credit for because KB tried that same trick that she pulled on Jod with the New Republic when they were coming in to try to capture him. KB tapped into the PA system of the Onyx Cinder, changed her voice to make it more menacing, and they were able to use that claw that they came down on in episode 5 to capture Brutus. So it's a lot of these cool things we were introduced throughout the season so far that ends up playing out more of like, yeah, we can use these things. And this is yet again where the pirate stuff gets so crazy. The claw captures Brutus. KB's like, oh, we'll take your captain if you don't let us go. Jod picks up Brutus's blaster, shoots him point blank. It's just insane. And then Jod knows the trick. He's like, there's going to be 4 scared kids in there. Go get them. They have no weapons. And now Jod, of course, the captain of the Onyx Cinder, has SM-33 on side. So the kids, they do get captured. As simple as that. And I put in my notes, Jod is one slippery dude. It's just nothing that happens to this guy. He can never be captured. It's insane. Well done, all things considered. So, one of the things I mentioned is I guess they held on to his helmet for when he was Captain Silvo, because now he's taking this crew back. First thing, he's switching back to Captain Silvo, puts the helmet on. Just great. I hope there's a season 2. I really do. I heard the numbers weren't too good on the show. I really hope that that's not the case and we do get a season 2 because the way this goes down it really is a work of art. And I'd love to see more Jod and more of an expansion on or Crimson Jack or whatever his name is. I'd love to see more of an expansion on him. So they end up intercepting the message mentioning to go to a New Republic embassy to bring them back to Ad-Atten. Now, as they're doing this, Fern mentions that the Onyx Cinder is her ship. He can't have it. One of the rules that are brought up in the Pirate Code is that you cannot be the captain of more than one ship. And I really like the scene with SM-33. He's like, good enough for me. And he knocks out Jod and clean. They put him back on the deck and here's the part that's going to get me, because when I rewatch this, so Jod ends up being taken off the ship. Onyx Cinder takes off, to go through Ad, and somehow Jod's back on it. Was there like a hatch or something he went through? I missed something because either that or it was overlooked. I just thought it was funny. They kind of threw him off, and then he's back in there. But I mean, that's intense. He cuts the head off SM-33. You have to see this droid go through so much through this, and he always somehow bounces back. Yeah, he ends up. I mean, the way he was like screaming at the kids, and he flies into AT-AT and pretending to be a Republic embassy with the basically kids as a hostage. Has them playing along with his role. Have him play along with his role as this Republic embassy. Leading them to bring Jod to the adults to happily bring Jod to the 1,138 vaults, full of Old Republic credit. Which I like that, obviously, George Lucas reference. Gotta say, Jude Law's acting when they open up that vault and the way he's looking at the credits, it's like just a warehouse full of pallets of credits. And it's, I think it's a testament to his acting. It's just wonderful, really. I mean, it felt like this adventure has come full circle. I think I might mention one of the earlier watch-alongs I mentioned about stuff with AT-AT, and I was like, oh, the treasure's probably here, or something like that, It turns out that's true. Or I said basically there's probably more to this planet than would meet the eye. Ends up being true. But I mean, it just looked amazing. All parts of it, even the sound design of those credits, it was great. They made a whole deal for the town too. They're like, oh, the emissary's coming, and he hasn't come in so long, and all of these vaults of credits are his for the taking. And it's that mixed feeling because like you're there for this whole ride of this Legend of AT-AT, and then now you're like, it's gonna fall into his hands. All these people are making credits, and now it's such mixed feelings, which leads us into episode 8. I realized also in this recording I didn't do my favorite scene in my favorite scene in character from episode 6. Given my favorite character is KB, it was her episode. She ended up going through her arc there, and I'm a fan of cybernetics, so seeing a character to be included with cybernetics, like, oh, cool. And it brings up a lot of questions that I've had with a lot of the Star Wars Galaxy stuff. So hers need to be replaced. But then there's Anakin's had that robotic hand for so long, you don't really ever see him do maintenance on it. It's one of those little things I think are cool. My favorite scene from there is probably, oh man, I mean the action scene of the hull of the Onyx Cinder I think was pretty neat. And then also either that or with the trash crab being revealed as the giant creature in the episode, I think was neat. Anyway, back then, let's talk about episode 7. My favorite character, you know what? Alright. It's gotta be Jod, I would go with, because I really just like his arc through all this. But favorite scene is when, Jod, as Captain Silvo, gets knocked out by SM-33. I just like that whole thing. It's like, you can't be the captain. They should be like, good enough for me. Knocks him out. Yet again, also, the design on that was great. Either that or I would have to go the closing scene with Jod inside the vault. But that leads us now into our next episode. This is episode 8. This is going to be, the ending here. I have 3 pages of things to talk about on this, so let's get into it. Obviously, continues from where episode 7 leads off with Jod as impersonating Republic emissary, and have the kids basically now under house arrest, basically saying that they are troublemaking, and it's in the parents' best interest to punish them, which is amazing on Jod's part, because as he can kind of do all the slimy dirty work, he knows no one else can get involved besides the Fern, who is basically being held against her will anyway, and Fern's mom, who is completely naive to the situation. But his whole thing is like, oh yeah, I have a crew that's here to help me collect all these, so now convincing to let the pirates come in, and they end up taking Jod to the supervisor, which crazy too. I mean, the supervisor is, yet again, more questions. The supervisor is this just AI program. Like, remind me of HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Remind me exactly of that. Uh, questions. I have a lot of questions. Supervisor mentions that the Republic's last transmission, because Jod poses both a Jedi and this Republic emissary, but the supervisor mentions the Republic's last transmission states all Jedi were traitors, leading, of course, Jod to be discovered, sending the security droids after him. And I love that scene because the supervisor's just like, well, that means one of two things out there. The Republic's lying or you're lying. Like, you're impersonating this person. So which is it? And also, little thing I like, because I was like, the Republic's last transmission was that? I was like, what about the New Republic? Then I come to realize, I'm like, oh, no, because that's, they're an old Republic system, but the Republic fell when the Empire rised. And I was like, oh my God, Order 66 would be the last transmission. That's cool, you know? Um, Little things like that I enjoyed. They speaking of Order 66, they talk about that during here because Jod mentions, he was taken in by the Jedi. He was living on the streets. They took him in, and they gave him food and stuff. A place to live. He was learning. Apparently not for long, so he had to be taken as a kid real early to Order 66 here. Or should I say, just in time for Order 66. There was supposed to be apparently a deleted scene with his Jedi Master. I forget I would have to check the actress's name. Apparently scenes were filmed, but they didn't make the cut, so I don't know what that's all about. I'm banking on a season 2, hopefully. But yeah, this great thing of showcasing, as I mentioned, like Jod's gray side, if you will. He's a gray Jedi. Um, he doesn't want. He mentions he doesn't want to destroy anything. He just wants to get the credits and go. Having Fern's mom, he was gonna take down the barrier. She's like, "I'll just give you access codes. We don't have to get rid of the barrier." So I guess it does mention now I'm thinking about that scene. That's probably where they get imports and exports, access codes, probably. Um, but John mentions he doesn't want to destroy anything, but I'm sitting here, even on the rewatch, even though I know how this is going to go. I'm like, what is this guy's like? What's his game? I know he's getting these credits, man, but what is he? What's long term looking like here? Like, I'm so confused about the process with how he's doing things, and it's just for the love of money is all I'm landing on. But the death of the supervisor does equal to the power outage, making this pirate invasion. Now that they've come through the barrier, really feel like an alien invasion. We don't obviously with how many species are in the galaxy. There's no real alien invasion, but I want to say this is the first time we've really seen this closed off planet. We've seen a closed off planet get this first, like otherworldly encounter. And the way they have it, it's the whole place is out of power, and you see these little spotlights coming from the pirate ship as it comes down, and like I said, it's I didn't see what species the dog-like creature was, but they're barking. Everyone stops staring up in this confusion and amazement. And if there's ever a time that this truly felt like an alien invasion, it was then. And that mixed in with, episode 3 had like that Dutch angle to show that the kids have stepped into like another world. Episode 4 had the theremin, giving it that old sci-fi feel. This is what I like to see in Star Wars. It's tapping into all of those other interests that have come together to create Star Wars. This show feels like Pirates of the Caribbean. It feels like an old 80s coming of age film. It feels like, a 1940s or 50s, sci-fi B-reel with the theremin. It's what I look for in these shows, and it's what I love about Star Wars, because the amount of times that takes me to go do something else in life is why I so dearly look at these things, But I digress. So the pirates, much to the opposite of what Jao was saying, is the pirates are coming out like, "I'll capture them. They'll be making us credits," and even Jao then switches that and that's the thing, Slimy. Once he gets the pirates in, he's like, "All right, cool. I'm gonna keep you guys to keep making credits." Um, I mean, he'll have a. I would argue he has a nearly. He would have an endless treasure, but at the same time, if he keeps spending it, because the credits are worth so much, because they're mint old Republic credits, um, I kind of gotta argue, like, isn't that gonna deflate it? So wouldn't you really have to spend it wisely? You know what I mean? Just a thought. Wouldn't that deflate the value of your treasure? Someone who's really good with finance can pop off in the chat with that one. Um, so now that you see that they've lied, um, and this blackout has happened as well. All the power's gone out. I like the kids then are like, all right, cool, we're gonna retaliate. Like we know what's happening. No one else knows. Everyone's gonna be confused. They just know we're being attacked for first time in probably ever. So Wim takes his dad. They get with KB. They get with Neil, and they all go off. And I love this because it's the skills they picked up through the season. KB, using the head of SM-33, which works, just activates, is able to fly the Onyx Cinder to combat the pirates, but also make her way out of the barrier. Neil is working a turret to start taking out parts of the pirate ship. KB ends up going um, into the barrier and was able to get a message over to Kimmy, who we met from episode 3, the lovely owl-like creature, runs an archive. I always love to see it. Is able to get the New Republic to go. And when she says it's two flaps, obviously more of an owl joke. I wonder if it's a real measurement though. That's what I couldn't find anything about it. Um, but because the barrier hasn't been taken down, the pirates got the access codes. The barrier ends up taking out the Onyx Cinder, causing KB to crash down now into the, you know, into the earth, basically, of Vat Aden, into the ground of Vat Aden. Very, very sad scene. Now, of course, it ends up being a death fakie, but the look on Jod's face, and that's where I can never understand this guy, because he just starts screaming that it didn't have to be like this, and I can't figure out where he's at. He doesn't want the kids to get hurt, but he'll keep them enslaved making credits, you know? He goes on this whole thing about how basically life for him in this galaxy is just this darkness with little bits of light. So we get, Jod's little backstory there is because now we have Wim, Fern, Farah, and I can't remember Wim's dad right now off the top of my head. It starts with a W. It feels stupid. Oh yeah, so Wim's dad ends up completely decking Jod as the kids now scramble to basically they want to take down the barrier. All this great stuff. I mean, the crazy part is Jod's trying to hold back Wim's dad from deactivating the barrier. Fern's mom is just confused and scared, just right there, just sitting nearby. Um, Wim is able to grab Jod's lightsaber that dropped and activates it correctly, holds his ground, um, which Jod then tries to use the Force to take it back from him. And Fern's assisting Wim. It's just a struggle. But the crazy part, when Wim's dad reaches to deactivate the barrier, the way Jod used the Force to bend his fingers back, I ain't gonna lie and say I always thought about that, but definitely never thought I'd see it. At least not this era of Star Wars. I am impressed by that, to be honest. I mean, gruesome to see, but still, Wim's dad is able to. Oh, sorry. Fern's mom gets up and deactivates the barrier. This big thing for Vat, and without that, they'll become no different like any other planet, probably. Unless somehow they can get the barrier back up. It just, it opens them up to this. I mean, more pirating, more war to come to them. The Empire being aware now. It's this is post Empire, so it's going to be the Empire remnants, which will then turn to the New Order. It opens them up to everything. The X-Wings come in, they take out the pirates, and I love the X-Wing jargon as they're coming through, the lock S-foils in tack position as they're just moving through, taking them out. I love to see it. And because of that, Jod's entire plan comes, no pun intended, I guess, crashing down as Wim and Fern and their family go to escape this tower, the look on Jod's face and the fact it's not touched upon beyond the scene. He sees everything coming down. He kind of has this shock, then to a slight smile. I have no clue what's happening, and this is the last we see of Jod for this season, for this series. I hope there's more. But I like as they're going to escape, Wim still yells out to him. He kind of just looks back outside, and they go on without Jod. Like I said, I hope to see more of Jod. And then, we do see KB. Like I said, it was a death fake out. Everyone has a great time. And, I put I said it was an Alvin and Chipmunks like outro to this season. Because all you get is Wim's all happy. Like, he got it. He got the sense of adventure. He found the treasure. Like, it all comes together. And it's phenomenal. And Wim's dad is just yelling his name constantly. And I'm like, oh, God, it's like Alvin and the Chipmunks. And then it hits the credits. And that's it. So that's it. That's the skeleton crew through the transparent steel that is the eyes of Tima, I guess. I really enjoyed this show, and I know, I know it didn't get great numbers. I think due in fact that it's following Acolyte, which did not do well at all with fans and critics. I've spoken pretty decently of Acolyte, but I can't be blind to the many issues it has for pacing and for story. But then this comes out, and as I mentioned, 2023, Andor was my wild card. Skeleton Crew was my 2024 wild card. And I cannot get past that at all. Is all these wild cards that we're getting from Disney and Lucasfilm ends up being my favorite thing. It has everything I'm looking for. Andor, great espionage action show. I think it had a lot to say and it had a lot to do, and I think it did it wonderfully. Skeleton Crew, it has this very light feeling to it. Like I said, it's that perfect mix of all these other influences coming together, and that's what I love about it. I really hope to see way more of this. Same thing, Jod. I'd love to see more. I think there's so much to be expanded upon. We could. There's so many more pirates. We get the Crimson Corsair. We can get Hondo Ohnaka himself. Now, keep in mind too, given this time period, depending where Kylo's at in his life, I have to see where this falls into the timeline. Han Solo goes back to smuggling. We could literally see Han Solo. Things like that. You know what I mean? Like there's so much to do. We know Mando's taking guild jobs. The world of Star Wars is so big, and with the barrier being down, it opens it up. But we also have Jod, where he's going. I don't know. There's a lot to expand upon it. I hope to see a lot more of that. So, in summary, I would like to give a rating to this episode. First, we'll do what my favorite character and scene was for episode 8. Then we're going to give a whole review of the series. Favorite character definitely is Jod, I think. The acting from Jude Law is amazing. Between the standoff, the interrogation with the supervisor, there's a lot to him. And as I said, through this entire series, I just can't figure the guy out. Favorite scene from this? Wow, see, it's tough because I'm basing this right now off of acting, and I would have to give it to Jod. Either when he's being interrogated by the supervisor, I just think the look is really fun. When when the whole gig's up, essentially. Or I would say at the end where he does that, like I said, that kind of smile and stuff, or even with KB, it's just, God, it's tough to say. I really like this episode, but I definitely think those are my rankings for this. As for the overall season, I would like to do favorite episode of the entire season, and I'll go favorite character. Definitely favorite. I'm gonna go 2 episodes, and this is my favorite, right? Episode 5 is my favorite. You have a lot to learn about pirates. Has to be my favorite because it had a lot. I think the environment was nice, the characters, great interactions. I mentioned in the review of that episode. It also just looks like the crew is having fun while doing this. Like while filming everything, it just you feel it. You feel the connection, and it feels like everyone's having a great time. Um, I will say then, if it's not that, on a personal standpoint, I would say um, episode 3 with Kimmy. That has everything I really like with Star Wars. I mean, Kimmy is an unknown species running an archive, so already, in the middle of nowhere. Wonderful stuff in the archives as well. Old star maps, just these you know, antiquities that I could spend so much time trying to research and stuff. I know they're not as fleshed out as I probably want them to be, but mixed in with the score for that, the old sci-fi theremin score, um, which I personally love. For anyone who tunes in for all my, Halloween stuff, I always try to compose something like a theremin, or something in that regard, a synthesizer similar to a theremin. I don't own an actual theremin yet, but the use of it just invokes that classic sci-fi feeling, and that's what I like about this. Um, so really, those are the two things, I guess. What I'll get at in terms of the review of this season, I really like sci-fi and I like the pirate stuff. Like it's a blend you just don't really think could do well, but it always does. Like I watched Treasure Planet a couple months ago, kind of prepping for this. Treasure Planet was great, and this reminds me of that too. So it's these kind of things coming together. It's that perfect blend that I love. I think that's kind of my summary of it. I will give this, and I mean this into no exaggeration. I would give this probably a 8.5 to 9 out of 10. Even then, I feel like I'm kind of being a little low with it. 9 out of 10 I think is a great review. Um I think the pacing was great throughout this whole entire season. I think everyone got their spotlight. It never felt too crowded. Um, Even episodes that really for me, like episode 4, wasn't huge. Like it's the whole child soldier stuff. Though it's not I mean, that's a real problem in the world. In the arc of the show, it's a little bump the road, but they use that as a good opportunity to flesh out the characters. Neil gets his moment, and later in that episode, Fern gets her moment. So everyone, they use everything wisely. And while they do that, building up the mystery of Jod from the minute we see him. I mean, we see Captain Silva right in the opening of the season. Um, I put together for episode 2, I was like, I think that's the same guy. Um, but building up the mystery of Jod and the fact, and this is where I think Acolyte failed, the fact that they were able to then keep that mystery going, and expand upon it. I still can't figure this guy out, what his motives are. I know it's money, but that's not a good enough answer because he's a more complex character than that. You don't know where he's at. Acolyte, where I think they went wrong, is they led with a great murder mystery and they had a great setup. And can you follow me? Like, okay, yeah. What happened? And then all the character building they do thrown out the window right at the end, and you're like, it just felt like nothing mattered. I know they were trying to go for that subverged expectation, but I felt it really didn't work in the way that they definitely wanted it to. But just in general, I just feel like didn't do it. Um, I mean, so that's my review of Skeleton Crew. I mean, I implore you guys, go watch it. I mean, like I said, if you're watching this, or listening to it, um, you've already seen it. That's what I'm getting from all this. But definitely go watch it. Go rewatch it. Some great pirate content. I'll make a video about some pirate things to watch if you guys are interested. Um, not too well versed in pirate films and stuff, but some good Star Wars things to recommend and maybe some outside media as well. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys like the new format. I'm really trying to find what works with my schedule and making videos because I want to talk to you guys about Star Wars. That's why I do this. I would like to start like a real podcast with Star Wars, have more people kind of bounce off of. But to me, this is, I feel like this is nice and intimate. I heard years ago, I think to some degree, Bill Burr had like a podcast. He used to be able to like, call in a place and they record you. And I kind of use that idea that I'm like, yeah, like a one man podcast may not be, you know, I don't know. Some people would say it's the most engaging, 'cause it's fun to listen to two people riff, and I completely agree. Um, but I do like the personalness of this. This is my experience with Star Wars, my thoughts on it, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you like Skeleton Crew, if you maybe you didn't, maybe it's not for you. You're not a coming age guy. Like those coming of age films from the 80s. You're not a fan of those, so maybe this isn't really doing it for you. Maybe you don't like pirates, you know. Let me know what you think. And pretty much from there, I mean, like I said, I this would have been out way sooner. Thank you for everyone who reached out and whatnot with my lung infection. I'm way better now. That was really rough period. Um, well needed rest, all things considered. I did actually start playing Jedi Survivor, which I would like to play with you guys this year. So stay tuned. Check out the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/themasterarchivist. I'm doing stuff almost every week, or I'm trying to. We're getting back to it with a good schedule. And then we'll be coming back here to talk some Star Wars. And until next time, I'm your host, Tima, the Master Archivist. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.